Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's your boy D back, coming back at you with another SmackDown review. All right, again we have Cody Rhodes as the champion. For what reasons? I don't know. I mean, it's just like Triple H loves him some Cody because for right now, I mean, it would have been nice to see Randy Orton get a little something with Drew McIntyre and stuff. But I guess we're not going to see that. We're going to see Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes. All right, well, let's get to the review. SmackDown. Start off with Randy Orton coming out, saying he's been like in 20 WrestleManias, and that the fact that he only main evented two of them. Saying he know he's not, saying that he's not the best guy, as far as in the ring. But he got guys like back in the day, like Harley Race, Ric Flair, and the Undertaker, saying how well he is. And then he said about JBL said about him is that Randy Orton is what you get if you build a pro wrestler from the ground up. And he also said that it makes him proud, to share the locker room, with the talent back there because he said there's a lot of good talent in the back. I mean, that's something that Triple H needs to show and stuff. I mean, there are good guys back there that are very talented, you know. And it says that it makes him proud, to still be able to do, the things that he can do as far as in the ring, you know. And that the fact that he's so good that people tell him he's still at the top of his game, which Randy Orton is at the top of his game. I mean, he still looks pretty good. I mean, I think he needs a little bit more on the mic and stuff, cut better promos and everything, and he's happy that he's in the spot that he's in, you know, saying it wasn't and nothing was handed to him, nothing was given to him. He said that he earned it, and that's true. I mean, he's earned it. I mean, he's a 14-time champ, and he's looking for that, number 15, saying that he doesn't know who his opponent would be as far as Drew or Cody because, they have a match later on, in the program against each other for the, world championship. Saying that he's not leaving Vegas. Once they get to Vegas, he's not leaving Vegas without that title. And how he's going to win the title is with those three letters, RKO. And then Trick Williams comes out, that he's saying that he's hearing voices in his head too, and then that he has a bone to pick, with Randy Orton, saying that he should have won, the chamber and should be going to main event, WrestleMania. And then he would start talking about, his lemon pepper steppers, and as he was saying that, boom, Randy hits him with an RKO and puts him down. And then you got a little backstage segment with Nick Aldis and Carmelo Hayes, talking about, who his next opponent is. And as Nick was about to tell him, Carmelo Hayes told him not to tell him because, he wanted to find out on his own. Want to be, I guess, be a surprise to him. And then comes out the AAA champion from, the Mexican wrestling organization, Dr. Wagner Jr. Okay, so we have this match. I mean, we have Carmelo Hayes versus Dr. Wagner Jr. And I mean, I guess the match was okay. I mean, it was sloppy, a lot sloppy for that guy, Dr. Wagner, to be the AAA champion and stuff. I mean, he's a luchador, and man, it was a mess. The match was a mess. Carmelo Hayes did his best, to try to carry the match, but he also, was messing up too. But eventually, Carmelo Hayes hits nothing but net, wins the match and regains his title. Then you got Ilya Dragunov back with Captain Kelly, and he's saying that he's a warrior, like he is right now because, of his mom and, her carrying all the weight on his shoulder, and doing things to make herself strong. So he said that he lives up under what his mom has done for him, to be that guy, to be that strong and stuff, and to carry the weight, on his shoulders. And once he gets back to where he's at, with that, then he'll be ready to come after the U.S. title or whatever title that might be, available for him to come. And then, like the Miz comes out and says, weight on your shoulder and stuff like that. And he's saying that, he's giving up opportunities that was given to him, for, to fight for the U.S. title, and he's turning them down and stuff. And then Kit Wilson comes out and tells her Dragunov that he's toxic and stuff. So, I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it with Ilya Dragunov. I don't know if he's injured or the case may be, but I guess somehow, some way, and SmackDown to me, they should be building a lot of things up, as far as WrestleMania coming, which is right around the corner next month. So we're looking at about 6.5 weeks away, maybe, and stuff. But then we get this segment with Nick Aldis, talking to R-Truth and Damian Priest, and Nick telling them that hey, they're going to be a tag team and stuff for the tag team Turmoil, you know, that would be coming up, and then we get Drew McIntyre telling Nick Aldis, about Cody and being the golden boy and all that other stuff. And Nick Aldis tells him, that he's going to fight tonight and he's going to put that title up against Cody. And if he didn't put the title up against Cody and everything, then he was going to forfeit the match and then have to give up the title because he didn't want to fight. And then Drew says, that he'll go ahead and face Cody later on, tonight. So that match is the main event, and we'll get to that when we get to that. And then we have the irresistible forces, Nia Jax and Last Legend. They have their little celebration and everything because they won the titles last week, beating Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. And now that they're the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champion, you know, and and then they're saying that they have the whole locker room, on lockdown, and that they're the ones and everything and stuff, and that there's no tag team back there, that can challenge them or take the titles or anything like that. And then out comes, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss, and they're coming, and you know, Charlotte is saying whatever she's saying, and then from that, out comes. Well, Charlotte is, saying that Nia Jax found her coattail and everything, talking about Lash Legend fall, kind of like what Tiffany Stratton did and stuff with Nia. So we'll see how that goes as far as her and Lash Legend, is concerned. But right now, they're the women's tag team champions, you know, and Charlotte's going on saying the only reason that they lost, titles was because of them interfering against the Kabuki Warriors match that they had, and they lost the titles to the Kabuki Warriors. And then the Kabuki Warriors lost the titles to Rhea and Io, and then Io and Rhea lost the titles to Nia Jax and Lash Legend, you know. And then as they're talking, then out comes Kiana James and Giulia. And then Giulia starts talking in Japanese, and after that, um, yeah, I was lost. And then Nick Aldis comes out and he puts them in a match: Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus Kiana James and Giulia. And then I guess the winner would have a shot, at the tag team titles and everything. And so the match went on and stuff like that. It was a little bit boring at first, and then once Charlotte came in, she kind of picked it up and everything, and then Alexa Bliss along the line picked it up. And like I said, Kiana James, she's gonna be a star. She did her thing and stuff as much as she could. I mean, it wasn't a bad match, but it wasn't a good match either. There was some missed spots and some blotches in there and stuff, and that's how it was throughout the whole night. I mean, the wrestling sometimes it's been sloppy and it's getting a lot sloppier and stuff. So if I could say that, or yeah, a lot sloppier and stuff. But anyway, Charlotte wins it with the natural selection, and she pins, I believe it was Giulia that she pinned and stuff. But anyway, they win the match, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. So sooner or later, I guess they'll be going down and looking at a title match again with the Nia Jax and the Irresistible Force is what I'll call them from now on and stuff. And then you get Kathy Kelly with Cody Rhodes, and she's asking him how he's going to get past the obstacles that are in front of him. And then Cody, just says, he just wants to point at the WrestleMania sign, obstacles after obstacles, you know, and the only thing that remains in his way, he's saying, is that Drew McIntyre is in his way, and so he said he's going to take care of that, in the match, tonight and stuff. And then he said the next time Captain Kelly speaks to him, he said that she will be speaking to the new WWE champ. So, and then Sami Zayn comes out and he starts complaining about how he should have been, that one. But Sammy's already had his, shot. And I mean, he brought us some good stuff because Cody did, have that match with Drew McIntyre, 3 stages of hell. And then I guess in the stipulation was that if Cody lost that match, that he wouldn't have any opportunity, for, a rematch as far as the championship is concerned. But then Cody, put himself, in the Royal Rumble. Drew McIntyre comes out and he gives him a claymore and causes Cody to lose. And then Cody's in the elimination chamber, and then Drew McIntyre smacks him in the back of the head, with the championship belt, and makes him catch an RKO from Randy Orton. So I can see where where Cody's coming from. So that gives Cody an opportunity to say, hey, look, every time that he had the opportunity, to win or get in a position to fight again for the title and not as a rematch and everything. Drew has been there, to interfere. And it's been going on since last year, past, around October, even probably before October. Drew has always been there to interrupt, Cody and his matches and stuff like that. And man, so that's that, with that. And then Sammy goes on to say that, he wanted to just come up and, say to Cody, good luck, and stuff like that. And then we get the tag team turmoil match. Okay. It started out with the Motor City Machine Guns against Fraxium. The match, with them went on. That was a little bit quick because, Axiom and Brandon Frazier, they're pretty quick in the ring. So if you blink, you miss them. And so they end up beating, the Motor City Machine Guns. And then out comes Las Gaza. And then they have their match. It was okay and everything. Las Gaza did, their thing. So they end up beating Faxion. And then out comes Dwight 6 against Las Gaza. Then Las Gaza ends up beating Dwight 6. And, Dwight 6, I mean, they need, I don't know. I don't know. It's not good with them. Whatever they're trying to do with the Wide Six, it's just not working. Well, for me, it's not working. I'm not sure about anybody else, but for me, it's not working. You know, but during the match, out comes Tungaloa, and I think Talatunga was out there with him and stuff. Or JD might have been out there with them too. I'm not sure which of the two that came out. And it, caused the Y6 to, lose the match. And then the Y6 goes off fighting, the members of the MFTs. And so then out comes R-Truth and Damian Preast, and they have the match, the final match, with Las Gaza. and the match went on and everything. I kind of liked how they did it and stuff. R-Truth, doing the John Cena thing, and then they work together and get the pin over Los Gaza, so they win the tag team Turmoil, so they get the number one shot at Solo Sokoa and the MFTs for the tag team title. And then we get Randy Orton and Sami Zayn backstage, and Sami's still complaining, you know, um, you know, on his match that he lost and stuff. But then he's complaining, telling Randy that he talked good about Cody Rhodes and everything about as far as the Elimination Chamber was concerned. Then he arcade Cody after what happened with Drew McIntyre. So and when I think about how Drew is how he's been interrupting Cody, I mean it's kind of funny, but then again it's not. But still, and then Randy says, to to Sami Zayn, he says sometimes you just got to be selfish. You got to do whatever you got to do. That doesn't matter whoever's in the ring with you and everything. You just got to do whatever you do, to get the win. And and it says it doesn't make him a bad person and stuff. He just did what he had to do. Oh man. So then Sammy, and then Randy goes on to say, the things that he does, it made him, a champion 14 times, and he's looking for that 15th title and stuff, which I think that he, should get. I'm hoping that he does and stuff, but I don't know how Triple H is going to do with Cody Rhodes. But anyway, so in the interim, as far as Sammy and Randy is concerned, Sammy is telling, Randy Orton, good luck, for whoever, he gets to meet as far as between Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes and stuff. So he, tells him, good luck. And then Randy tells him that he should, believe in himself. He tells, Sammy, stop believing in yourself and everything. And he said that he sees in Sammy that he can be a champion down the line, and then he tells Sammy to try to listen to the voices that are in his head and then go from there. And then we got Aleister Black that came out and he tells Sammy, don't worry about Randy because it's the nature of the beast. So I guess Aleister Black is trying to get something going or doing something as far as Randy Orton is concerned. He's been in and out of some of the segments as far as Randy is concerned and stuff. And then we got Rhea Ripley, going face to face with Jade Cargill. You know, and it's Jade is saying that well actually Rhea is saying that she told the people before that she was going to be there in Portland, standing in the ring, you know um, as the person challenging Jade for the championship, you know, and then she calls Jade out, and then Jade comes out, Jade extends her hand as far as to shake her hand, and then Jade goes on to say, you know she put her hand out to shake her hand because she respects her and that she's going, and then she tells Rhea that you know she doesn't like her as far as being powerful, how she's built, and all that stuff. And then she said that she's going to beat Rhea, you know, and she's gonna take her down because she don't have no power against her and stuff like that. And she said she's gonna beat the hell out of her because she's that big and stuff. And then Rhea flips it about everything that Jade said about her. She's saying that to Jade, you know, um, telling Jade that she kind of respects her, and I mean we got all this respect thing and stuff like that. Let's not have no respect. Let's just go ahead and get it done. But then she's telling Jade that yeah, her body is pretty banging, and that she may not have we were saying that herself may not have the big shoulders, the big arms, and stuff like that, but she's powerful. and she told Jade that if she hits her, she gonna knock her down, you know. And then she goes on to tell Jade that when she drops her, she's not gonna be able to get back up because she's that B2. So, and then they drop mics and then they walk off and everything. Then we got the stupid thing with Johnny Gargano and stuff, and Candice LeRae. My word. And so, the Motor City Machine Guns, are talking and trying to get, things going, and then they just walk away and stuff. And Candace tells Johnny to get up. He gets up and he goes out to the ring and stuff. And then when he gets out to the ring, he must be delusional and stuff. And so this fool calls out anybody from the back. He's saying that he's going to get his, stuff together, and he's going to be who he was and everything and stuff like that, and then go on to be something. And then, as he said, it's a challenge to anybody in the back. Out comes Femi, and you already know what's about to happen. So we get Femi and Johnny Gargano, and the match is over in 2 minutes. He took that fall. He put Johnny Gargano up, and from fall from grace, Femi wins the match. And then we get Meechin and B-Fab, with Jay Cargill, and they're talking, crap and stuff like that, especially Meechin and everything, because Meechin said that she's going to put Jade into place. And then so Jade said, hey, look, you want to talk all that crap? Well, let's have a match next week. So next week on SmackDown, they will have that match, Meechin and Jade Cargill. And then we get this segment with Danhausen with Nick Aldis, and they're just talking and stuff like that. And I guess he's trying to get, Nick Aldis trying to get somebody to, I guess, guide Danhausen and stuff. And then the Miz shows up, and then Nick tells the Miz that he's going to mentor Danhausen. And then Danhausen has all these demands about what he wants the Miz to do for him. And he tells the Miz, because Miz said he's not going to do any of that stuff, and he tells the Miz if he doesn't do that and everything, he will be cursed. Just like he said that he told Dominic Mysterio Monday, and Dom lost the belt to Penta and stuff. And then we get the main event, Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. Cody was all over Drew. I mean, they were going. He was beating Drew down. Took some of that anger and some of that built up Claymores that has been taken, and he took it out on Drew for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the match and everything. Then Drew works his way in and stuff, and he starts working on Cody's arms and stuff like that. And then they get on top of the announcers table and everything, and Cody is about ready to crossroads him and everything, and Drew gets out of it, but then the table falls apart. The announcer table collapses anyway. So I don't know if that was intentional or whatever the case may be, but whatever that spot was, they had to change it. You know, and then Cody gets the table, then Drew comes and puts Cody through the table. And I thought that might have been disqualification, and then Drew retains the belt, but they kept going. I mean, there was no disqualification because at one time, you know, Cody had Drew in the figure four, and Drew grabbed the ropes, but the referee didn't make the break in the ropes. So I'm like, did they make this a no disqualification match? Because at the beginning of the match, they said pinfall or submission. So something changed during the match and stuff, And then Cody hits a crossroad. No, Drew hits a crossroad on Cody, and Cody kicks out. And then Cody claymores Drew, and then Drew kicks out of that. All right. And then Cody goes to crossroad. I mean, he gets how do I say this? All right. So Cody goes to give a Cody cutter, and they ends up giving it to the referee, and the referee goes down. And then Cody catches Drew, um, with the crossroads, and there's no referee to make the 3 count. And then Cody gets up and everything, and then they start fighting again, and then Drew gets Cody down. Then another ref comes out, and then Drew headbutts that referee and knocks him down, knocks him out. I mean, there's no disqualification. And then all of a sudden, you know, Cody, Claymore's, Drew Claymore's or hits Cody, and then he goes out to get a chair. And then once he come back with a chair, he was about ready to nail Cody with the chair, and then Jacob Fatu grabs the chair. Then Cody hits Drew with the Cody cutter, and then he hits him with the crossroads, and Cody wins the match, and now he's champion again, once again, once again, 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 and again. So I know that we're tired of Cody and stuff, but I guess somehow Triple H thinks Cody's working as the face of the company, and I think that's killing the company with Cody being the champion and being lead. You know, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know how you're feeling on this and everything. Please don't forget to subscribe. All right. Thank you for watching. God bless. Deuces. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.